I can officially say welcome to the garden. Very exciting stuff. We are going to be planting a whole slew of plants today, tomorrow, and a few days after that. We have a lot to take care of. Starting with potatoes pretty much out of necessity. This is kind of like, it just feels unbelievable. It feels a little surreal that we're back at this point again. It was a whole year we took off pretty much from all of our gardening, so I'm very thrilled to be here again at this point. You can tell that a lot of these seeds have actually, potato seeds have sprouted. These were potatoes that we had down in our crawl space, so they didn't store perfectly over the winter. I had set them aside in hopes to plant them, and I'm still going to be doing that even though they are a little bit soft and very sprouted at this point. We also ordered potatoes, and I ordered from 2 different companies, so I had some sent to me. They're down there. Those look awesome. I'm a really big fan of Huckleberry Gold, and then I'm trying another variety, but we also got some from the same gentleman here in Alaska that we always get them from. He grows the most amazing potatoes I have ever tasted, including 𝐻𝐷𝐿. It's one of our favorites, so we have a lot of those. This is gonna be the most potatoes we have ever planted. I haven't even counted all of them. We're gonna get started, and we're doing things pretty much the same as always, so we always plant whole seed potato just like this. I never really cut them up. I usually get the best results from leaving the potato whole. I feel like it has the most energy, and I do not really differentiate the 2 potatoes from indeterminate and determinate. You've probably heard that before. I don't know why. I just have never really paid attention to that, if you want to know the truth. So I hill all of them up, whether it makes a difference for some of them or not. Of course, I don't know because I'm not separating them by that, but we are going to be labeling them this time around. I tend to think that I'm going to remember where I planted them, and it just doesn't work like that. So I've got little labels and a Sharpie. I'm very excited.
So we're trying to keep the ones that aren't sprouted a little further down here. That sounds good.
I may leave
Oh,
them
look,
out
a mouse
little.
ate that one.
I know, yeah, the vole. You sure it's 𝐌𝐸? It's YF. It's yellow fingerling. It's a type of fingerling.
Should I put yellow finger or?
Yeah, you can just put yellow fingerling. Or yellow finger, however you want to.
Look at that potato. That's a red potato.
You want to just cut open this one real quick and see? I don't know why this is so tough, but I'm having a difficult time figuring out which ones we're going to eliminate. We have too many. We've decided we're going to devote 2 beds, which I think is a good idea. Potatoes are they're amazing. They're great for all winter, and we have a place to store them. We're also going to be trying to save them for next year's seed potato too, so I have to keep that in mind. Some of these varieties are actually ones that are pretty hard to find. One in particular, Merlot, I don't even think you can buy it, so I really want to make sure I grow it. There's also another one we got. It's I already said 𝐻𝐷𝐿 was my favorite potato. Next to 𝐻𝐷𝐿 is the unknown variety that we called from the location we got it, and I could probably figure it out by messaging the person, but I haven't, so I don't know what it's called, but it's a real, it's out of this world. It's a gold potato, kind of borderline like a russet, but it's more like a gold potato, and it is so perfect for like roasting and baking. It has the most amazing skin, so we're going 14 of those. We're going just a little bit more than we usually do, but like I said, I have extras, and it's just really tricky to figure out who's gonna make the cut. For some weird reason, we have 38 in this one, but I can fit 39 in this one. And we have 8 Merlot. Do you know how to spell Merlot?
MERLOT.
These are labeled, so we're ready to rock. I'm gonna try to plant them pretty deep because we have a bed that is full of about 1 foot of soil. So generally the potatoes grow upwards. They grow these little tubers from their roots, and I just want to plant them as deep as I can go. It's probably going to be about 6 inches to 8 inches, and we're just going to leave them open so I can come back along and put some fertilizer on them. Just an important note, these potatoes, like I mentioned, these have gone a little long. I would have normally wanted to plant these earlier. They broke out of dormancy a little bit in the storage. Something like this. It's not quite perfect. I would honestly wait till this went a little bit further. These have just barely broken out of dormancy. And then we have some other ones over there that have like just barely broken out of the dormancy period, but they do have sprouts. So I would always wait until you see the sprouting before you plant them. But usually I like to have like maybe that long of a sprout. That's just my preference. If you put them in the ground really early like that, they will take a long time before you see them rise above the soil. And of course, this is just a little bit late, so it's already expended some of its energy. We've got a lot to do, so we're gonna get at it. It's gonna disappear down there. Did you say mine are deep enough, do you think?
Yeah, it's about how deep I'm going.
The plants can be cramped, but the garden won't be cramped.
Right.
Like we'll be able to walk.
That's what we were going for.
Yeah.
It's like a little
Yeah, there's a lot of rocks.
hand shovel.
Hey, no way, no, chicken? Are you chicken? No chicken.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I have an extra one right here, so you don't have to worry about it. I'm probably gonna get it in there here. I'd say just plant these like with that tip, like right. A vole had his way with this one, but we're still planting it.
Coming out anymore.
They definitely can't come in here anymore. Yeah, unfortunately that time has closed.
Do you want to put these gloves on at all, or use them later?
I'll use them later, probably, but I mean, well, I don't know. Wind, huh? Plant growing.
Yeah.
Usually try to throw those out. I think we're gonna get a kid. Why is it so hot today? Just finished bringing out all the plants from our little high tunnel where we've been storing them. We probably should have done it earlier today. I have been concerned about these plants the last week because it's been getting hot, and we run the risk of things bolting, especially these types of crops that don't like that much hot weather. I did run into the kale right here, and it actually looks like it's starting to, it's not completely bolting, but it looks really stemmy. Anytime it looks like that and it's really hard, the stalk, I have a pretty strong instinct that this is not going to be like a leafy plant like we want, and it's going to flower right away. But it's not too late to plant more, and I did learn this year I started some of my stuff way too early. It seemed to grow really fast. We just didn't have everything set up this year right away. And all of this has been started from seed. We're not going to get it all planted today. We have a few little plants that we picked up from a nursery. I got tarragon chives, lavender, rosemary, and a chocolate mint, because I don't think I have chocolate mint.
Gotta have chocolate mint.
Got a lot of crises right now between the chickens trying to get in and no gate, and then just trying to cool these plants off. Some of them were pretty dry. That was a little hard for me to tell because there were so many in there. There's just a few flowers left that don't like the cold temps. I think it was 30 degrees this morning, so a light frost. All this stuff seriously needs to get planted, but I think we're gonna start on cabbage. Does that sound good to you? Cabbage and Brussels sprouts? Probably start on those first since those are the biggest plants. Oh, you know what, hon? Let me show another example. This is a really good example of plants that are bolting. This is called 𝐼𝐸𝐸𝐻. It's mountain spinach, and that is not what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to be a lot taller and a lot leafier. Clearly it's putting its energy into flowering, so these will probably go to the chickens with the compost. These have such long roots coming out, huh? Oh, well, I'm not planting yet. I'm more just, what's it called? Like assorting.
Okay.
Small enough that like a bug could demolish it, but beautiful. As far as just, I really like this variety. We have so many tried and true ones, but then I saw some new ones that I was like, oh, that looks really good too. Well, I definitely want to plant those too. I got Red Jewels, a really good red one. This is fiddler kraut. I really like her. Eric. Well, if you want, you can close the. Is there any more coming in? Because I can shoo these ones out. We can catch Krusty in this one. This part's a little bit hard too because we have to kind of pick and choose what we want to plant. I definitely started too many, and I kind of always do this intentionally because some of them just don't turn out as strong as some of the others, or just other little various things. This one is a new variety. I think I was really excited to grow this because I think it's a Savoy cabbage, so it has like these little crinkly leaves, but it's an early type. I grow one called Aubervilliers, and it's a late type, and that one's doing good. This one, it's really looking like it's gonna bolt. I've had that happen twice to 2 cabbages, so I'm probably just gonna pass on these this year, and that's what I mean. So I just grow extras because I'll pick like the strongest ones or the best looking ones, and they look great. A lot of them look fantastic. These are some really good looking cabbages, and I just picked the best ones already. What I'm usually looking for is actually a shorter, stockier plant, so not necessarily the tallest, biggest plant. If they're a little long, I usually stay away from them. I go for like short and chunky, and usually that'll make a really strong, nice plant. Doing good out here. Are you okay, hun? The Jenny's not on?
Well, you had a weird year this year, so.
They were kept hot.
Yeah.
I agree. Some of those green ones I started later, the later varieties.
OS Cross is cool.
Yeah,
to grow huge. It's not my favorite cabbage. It's a little too like loose. It's a little too big. I like a tight, really hard head of cabbage.
Me too.
So.
It's a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
Like that's what you heard screaming this morning because they were just screaming again. They're like fighting or playing or something.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like fighting or playing, but in bird language.
Yeah,
it was back over there, and then an adult flew into the tree. But those, and that's about it. Pretty much. Oh, and some of the asthma stuff. I'm gonna give you a little more room right there for him. Does that container look okay for the all-purpose one?
Yeah. $34 cabbages. The plan with the garden was to space it out. It's not happening so far, but that's all right. And we've got 4 of the giant Alaskan cabbages. They're called OS Cross here on the end. We'll see how big those get this year. Onto the lettuce bed.
We're also going to be putting in our Oriental greens or Asian greens in this section. I like to keep them all together because they're short-lived crops. We'll be lucky if we get a crop this year off of them. So I've got some purple mizuna right here, things like spinach, pak choi, bok choy. I've got sorrel, mustard. There's probably some other things I can't think of right now, and then a bunch of lettuces. You see the helicopter? That's a fire. Oh. These pretzels are making me thirsty. Colonel mustard.
Like arugula kind of, huh?
Is it Colonel mustard or Colonel mustard? Colonel Sanders. Clue was my favorite game, but I didn't get to play because I didn't have that many friends.
This is officially the first salad of the season that we're going to eat tonight. Little leftover greens that, you know, we're not going to plant because we got too many of them. We'll eat them tonight. So good to eat greens again.
Is it spicy at all?
Oh yeah.
It is?
Yeah, the purple one's really spicy. I like that one.
Yeah, purple one's really spicy. The other one should not be as spicy.
I guess those chickens found their way out or something? Or?
They hate us so much that maybe they...
This is nice. We're really far from the house and we still have really good pressure out here, you know? Got about 300 feet of hose. Okay, long day out here. This is dinner time, and hopefully we'll get back out tonight and do some more gardening. Mosquitoes found us though, so we'll see what happens. Oh, lettuce, greens.
We've got some more hatchies. We've got one chick already out of the egg and another one or a few of them working on it. And there's something pretty neat over by the sawmill shed that we'd like to show you. And then we have to get started in the garden again.
We found that nest about a week ago, and then we finally saw the bird that was making it, and it's a robin. And it started off as a little tiny nest, and now it's about 8 inches deep. Yesterday, when I looked in there was 2 eggs. They're really cool. They're bright blue. Arielle just told me there's 3 in there now. Unfortunately, she picked a pretty bad spot to make a nest. We're in the sawmill shed, and I have to cut some lumber today, so we'll see what happens.
All right, the plants made it through the night, which is nice. I was a little bit concerned about voles. Something's eaten some of the plants before in that little high tunnel we have, and I don't know what it was. It could have been a small bird, but everything looks good. They look really nice. They've absorbed that water and they're sticking straight back up. It's amazing how quickly they can adapt to their new home. I was gonna mention what kinds they are real quick, because if I don't now, they're gonna be gone soon. These are really, really like short-lived foods for us. We pretty much just eat through them in the next few weeks because they will bolt with the warm temps and with the long daylight hours we have. We were able to get back out here and get some more lettuces planted after dinner, but I have a lot more planting to do today. Eric and I are going to split forces since we need to make quite a few more beds. So he's going to be getting wood ready, and then I'm going to be doing some planting. But right on this end we have Mizuna. We have 2 different kinds. We've got mustards, again a few different kinds in this whole area. This is a tiny bok choy. This is a purple bok choy, a normal bok choy, and tatsoi. This has like a really cool leafy green like spinach. Arugula, bunch of spinach, and some lettuces. All of this got very light fertilizer. This is a pretty heavy row already with the manure, so that's nice. That'll give them a little boost for their greens, but these in general don't like a lot of fertilizer, kind of like a cabbage. But that's not the case for onions, which is what I am going to be working on next. All right, let's talk onions. But first, I actually forgot to mention something. We are doing, the way we're planting this year is probably not going to be the exact same way we plant next year, just because we don't have all the beds available. I'm having to kind of strategize. And I think in the future, I want some of the earlier greens, like those mustards and lettuce and spinach, to be grown in some hotbeds that we're going to be making. I think that that would be a more appropriate area for them. I do plan on turning that bed into a full garlic bed this fall, so that's kind of cool. It's going to get double usage. Back to the onions, and I say onions, but it's actually leeks, shallot, any type of onion. I plant them all in the same bed, and I was really good with my labeling this year. I've never done this. I'll usually put the one, first off, they're transplanted already. They started in little pods, and then I transplant them into cups. So this is Cortland. Pretty sure it's a yellow variety or a brown type of onion. Really nice onion. But these are actually really hard to tell the difference. So I've got this one labeled, but I don't usually put a tag in each cup, and I'll have a lot of onions. So like this one, I would just put these kind of like behind the Cortland. Super windy out here today, and I would hope that they wouldn't get shuffled and I would know what was going on. But every year it happens where they get shuffled, and then I go to plant them and I'm like, what is this? I don't know, so I'll have mixed onions. And this year, I actually put CO as code for Cortland. So I'm really proud of myself. All of these are labeled with a letter. That way it is impossible for me to mix them up. Even with the trained eye, you can tell the difference between leeks and onions, and sometimes red onions to the yellow growing, but they can get pretty tricky. This is Ambition, which is a shallot. So I'm pretty sure these are shallots. They're just a little bit bigger than I was expecting. And these are leeks. Leeks look a hair different, but you may not even be able to tell the difference. So we're gonna keep everything separate. We're gonna do leeks probably, and then I'll switch to like shallots, also scallions. We have green onions, and then we'll go towards the onions. I hope to fill up the whole bag, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I don't have that many onions, and we're usually looking to grow a couple hundred. I don't know how many this is. This is Eric's least favorite thing to help with, mainly because these are really small. They're much smaller than they're really big this year. They're usually much smaller, like a little blade of grass. And if you can imagine transplanting a couple hundred blades of grass, it is grueling. It has taken me personally like 4 or 5 hours just straight working, you know, no breaks. I think today is gonna go a little smoother with these beds. I'm just gonna kind of trench them and then just get all of these transplants out. And I also thinned them already, so I didn't put as many in each cup. That always makes it easier because the roots are more willing to separate from each other. We're also going to be just trimming them, so like that as I cut them, maybe not so dramatic. And that's gonna help promote just like that new growth. They're gonna put their energy into their roots as well, and all of that is going to create very nice onions, we hope, or onion bulbs, we hope. They are a high fertilizer crop, so they like a lot of nitrogen. I didn't know that till a few years back. I was talking to someone at Territorial Garden Company, and our onions had just been doing so-so up until that point. I hadn't really come across any literature that said they like nitrogen, but they love nitrogen. It's hard to believe since they're a bulbing plant, but all of their leaves are basically what determine that bulb and the layers of onions, or the layers in the onion bulb. So healthy greens means you got a healthy plant and a healthy, you know, big bulb. Okay, I think we're gonna get started. Whoa. Looks like Eric may have beat me to our jobs. I am closing in on the gap here. I started with the sweet onion on that side. That way I can kind of accurately judge if I could fit all of the plants. Just got 2 varieties left to do. Something that made it a lot easier to plant is spraying the beds down. That kind of helped me out. I inadvertently figured that out because it is a little bit dry and clumpy. We're putting in about 8 onions or so per row. Some of them are getting 9, like the shallots, and these scallions I will probably put more than that in 1 row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Monstrel. Hey, I was gonna make iced coffee, hon. Do you want any? There's 2 of them in there. I gotta convert them with ice. I'm addicted to coffee.
We have replenished our lumber supply behind me, and next I'm gonna start working on some more beds. We're gonna do some along the fence, 4 of them. They're gonna be built out of 2x8s, and they're gonna be for flowers and herbs and whatever else. These ones are gonna be kind of long and narrow. In the center.
You mean the fence? Oh, the fence is what you mean? Sage. I love sage. Eric made these awesome beds, so I'm trying to get the herbs in tonight. We grow a lot of them because I like to dry them for the winter months. They are not perennials here, so very seldom do I have certain herbs over winter. Mint's always been troubling for me, surprisingly. And oregano did actually sometimes survive. There was one variety, but I imagine it won't survive in this climate because it's significantly colder. It's a lot, and we're gonna try to get these planted tonight. Eric just brought dinner out. Oh, that looks good. There's beans in there? You put beans in it, hun?
Nope, we got a salad finally from the garden and moose chili from like 2.5 years ago.
That looks really good, hun. Was that all his salad?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't much left. Whoa. It's so weird when you work this, like, I just don't even, I want to keep gardening. I'm like, who cares about eating? I got a lot of broccolis, so there's a chance. I didn't start them all at the time. Wow.
Yeah, you got mosquitoes all over you. They're not biting me right now for some reason.
I didn't take my garlic pill for 2 days.
I haven't either.
I need to take it. They say rain is a gardener's best friend. And almost on cue, after planting for 2 days, it rained all day long. But that didn't stop us from needing to get work done, so we continued to plant. Now, I was pretty excited for these artichokes that I started. I think I got the timing just right. And even though they won't be perennials in our climate, I'm still pretty hopeful we're gonna get a few crowns from each plant. The Brussels were looking pretty good too, and I like to snip any of the discolored or yellow leaves at the time of planting, and I just bury those along with the soil. Unfortunately, these kohlrabi were not looking so good. I passed on planting them because they looked like they were gonna bolt soon. This is a much better example of an eligible plant for transplanting. These are short and stocky cauliflower. Next up, we were getting some fennel in the ground, which has a considerable nitrogen requirement similar to artichokes and Brussels sprouts. We use a lot of the granular fertilizers that take quite a while to break down into the soil, so I put on a pretty good dosage at planting time. The last thing I needed to work on was catnip and some French sorrel. I've had luck with these perennializing in the past. And I haven't mentioned it much, but soil is the key to everything with gardening. I find that it's often overlooked and we forget that there's so much more going on in the ground than we give it credit for. At a microscopic level, you know, we're adding all these things in order to break down and provide nutrients for the food, as well as create a thriving community of critters and microorganisms. We're surrounded by so many ecosystems and Mother Nature that already achieves this on its own. And all we're really trying to do is just mimic that the best we can. When you add amendments to your soil, you're virtually giving back to it and creating a healthy home for your plants. We're back out in the garden after several days of rain, which I can't complain about. I just wasn't necessarily expecting that. And Eric and I have been picking up plants, things that we ordered a while ago. We need to get those planted. We've pretty much finished up with these 8 beds. I have one more behind me. It's looking a little hectic, but I've done a lot of tidying and organizing. This bed is done. We have the celery, the Swiss chard kohlrabi, and some other various greens in here. And I did fertilize the celery, which is pretty heavy on its nitrogen requirements, and same thing actually with Swiss chard. And with the Swiss chard, I transplant those a little bit later. What I'll do is I just brought them out from the cabin a few days ago because I found that they were susceptible to bolting if I brought them out too early and they were exposed to the cold. In general, they are a cooler crop, but I feel like with those and beets, they're in the same plant family. They just prefer a little bit warmer weather and warmer soils. Funny story, we were bringing them out of the cabin the other day and we had them out on the deck and the chickens had their way with them for just like 5 seconds, and that's what happened. But thankfully I had a lot of these little trays, and when I was bringing them down later that day, I like rolled my ankle and they went flying. So it was just really kind of a sad situation, but we do have quite a few of them that I was able to rescue, which is good. although this is definitely too much because we don't even eat that much Swiss chard. It's just a really hard plant to keep up with. At this point, you've probably seen me fertilizing with a lot of different fertilizers, and there's one in particular I wanted to mention. It's in a little tote. I have it, or in a little plastic container. I have it mixed up. It's a 3 blend, and the reason we're doing that this year is because it's a brand new garden. So although there's a lot of nutrients and things available in the compost that we have in each bed, I just kind of want to like boost things since it's the first year that we're putting the soil together. We've got rock phosphate, which is a source of phosphorus. So NPK, if you've ever seen that on the fertilizers, it's the middle one, phosphorus. Langbeinite is the potassium, so it's that last one, it's the K. A lot of fertilizers are pretty low in that, so we just kind of wanted to get a good balance in here to begin with. And azomite is to help a little bit with like some of those trace minerals. So we're just trying to get off to a good start. I think that's always a nice idea when you don't exactly know what's happening in the soil. You know, we don't test our soil or anything like that. I feel like the compost is just really the key to success, honestly. We're gonna work on a gate next because that's just like a necessity. When these Swiss chard were actually getting eaten, what happened was I went over to our chicken coop and I accidentally, somehow the door didn't get closed. So the chickens were out and Eric thought that they were in the garden. He ran out here and they were actually behind the garden, so no one was in here. But as you can tell, it would not be good if they got in here. So we're gonna make the gate. Let's end on our fact/tip for this garden segment, and that is that celery is actually in the carrot family, and so is fennel and dill, if you didn't know that. Celery in particular is native to the Mediterranean region, and sometimes I feel like it is a little bit helpful to learn about the certain plants you're growing, especially if there's one you're having challenges with. Celery is a little bit more finicky and tricky in particular. The artichokes are also from the Mediterranean region, as well as like rosemary and fennel. And the reason I mention that is it's just useful to know where that plant is native to and what kind of climate they're used to. You know, are they a perennial, an annual, or a biennial? What kind of winters do they survive through? And that can just be useful for helping you learn how to grow it. The most comparable type of climate we have in the United States would be something like our coastal region. So this isn't coastal region, but they do still work here. Even like the UK, weather like that. So rainy, cooler, long seasons. Ours happens to be short and fast and filled with sun, but we still make them work here. And that's my tip, because I usually find that people are, when they're going to garden, you know, especially me too, when I first wanted to garden, I went to the store, I'm pretty sure I was at Home Depot, and I like just picked a bunch of packets because I was really excited about gardening and I didn't really think too much about them. So I just like threw them all in a bed, and we didn't have very much success at all, honestly. So we've come a long ways, but it just makes sense to take a little bit of time and learn about the plants. They all have individual needs, and once you know that, you will usually be more successful growing them.
What I wanted to do on the top too is I wanted to go down like an inch.
What did you do the same?
What I what?
What's the height you're going to be going at? Go down.
I thought I was going down to there.
Oh, sorry.
Things are coming along pretty good out here, and we decided to build our own gate instead of buying one because we couldn't find one that was going to fit our 2 posts. So we're dealing with 51 inches, and the closest one we could find was like 7 inches too narrow, and we didn't want a narrow gate. We didn't want to redo our posts, so we picked up some 2x2 steel. This is 1/8 inch thick. It's not very expensive, and it's pretty easy to work with. This whole gate right here is actually going to be cheaper than it was going to be to buy one. I think with this gate, the metal on the front and the hinges were like at $150, which isn't too bad. And when I was at the metal shop getting the metal, I was gonna kind of make my own custom hinges, and then I started asking them about hinges, and he said they had these ones called They're either called a bullet hinge or a barrel hinge. I've heard them called both ways, and it's a pretty awesome little mechanism. It's got a little Zerk fitting on top so you can grease them. So this part right here, we're gonna weld to the fence. This part is gonna get welded on the gate here. Let me show you. It's gonna go something like this. And then that's the hinge. They were either $9 each or $12 each, and I got 2 of them, and they're like heavy duty solid steel, so I was pretty stoked on these. We welded a couple caps on the top. We're gonna grind those down, clean things up. We are gonna be painting this gate. I believe we're gonna do some primer, and then we'll spray it with some semi-gloss black. And then the mesh screen or the squares on the front, that's 4x4 squares. That's left over from when we built the soil screen. I really like that metal also. Let's get these hinges tacked on, and we're gonna bring it over, see if we can get it to fit, and then we'll be able to pull it off and paint it. Dang it, that looks pretty good right there. Don't judge me on that little spot right there. So you sure you want it to open inward? Well, we got her in, and we wanted, basically with this whole fencing, we want it to last. We don't want to have to do any maintenance. We don't want to have to do anything like that. And we always have a problem with gates and like latching, so we wanted to do no latch on this one. It's going to have a spring. Arielle decided she wants the gate to go in, so it opens up like that. And then we have this little tab I just welded on the bottom, and that's basically what will happen. And it will stay like that, and hopefully a moose doesn't discover how to come in here and open it. I don't think they will. We painted it black, and I ran out of paint, so I still got to get the back side of this like little mesh and touch up a couple spots, but it turned out really good. I'm really happy with this gate. We worked hard today, just like every day, and we're gonna get things cleaned up. We're gonna pick some wild food, and we're making dinner. I mean, is that not awesome or what? This hinges the most cool things you've ever seen.
They're so dark. Recent. That should be plenty for dinner. These just showed up in the last week. These are fireweed shoots, and they are super tender and delicate if you get them when they're young like this. So we're going to be cooking these up.
Be a good dinner tonight. We have a caribou roast over here, and I've got a nice rub on it. We have potatoes with fresh herbs, and we have fireweed shoots, which taste a lot like asparagus. They cook down a lot. That's why we got so much in here. Put that over there.
It's really cooked down. Yum.